the Slugs have returned. Thank you, everyone that stuck with us over the last near 2 months of no content. But we're back, we've got plenty to talk about, and we're, of course, hungry for all things Shatterpoints. In this very special crossover episode, I'm joined by Red Mando 1 and Red Mando 2 to discuss Premier Strike Building with a light side focus. The Red Mandos also have a fantastic Shatterpoint podcast, so do check out the episode description below to see exactly where you can find them. Cam will then jump on the cast to talk about some very exciting Slug-related Star Wars news. My name is Tom Harper. All of the music in our content is, of course, composed by the unconquerable Gabriel Fisher, and links to where you can check out and follow his projects are in the episode's show notes, along with all of the places you can check out and support our content. If you love what you hear, please consider joining our Patreon. A massive thank you goes to our patrons Benobi, Brendan, Duralvar, Bruno, Death1942, Alan Jones, Winter AU, Arfs, and Kevin C. It means an incredible amount, and we cannot wait to bring you more content. Now, join me as we continue our exciting journey into the domain of Star Wars Shatterpoint.
You don't know the power of the
All right, shut up.
of the dark. You could use it. Of the dark.
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool in politics?
It's a trap.
Kid, I flew from one side of this galaxy to the other and seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all.
G'day guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We have a very, very special episode planned. I'm actually joined by the very special Red Mandos cast. Both Red Mando 1 and Red Mando 2 are here to discuss Premier list building for Lightside. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a long time coming. Let's get into it. How are you both?
Yeah, thanks for having us. We are special, and that's in the head, obviously. But yeah, we appreciate it.
Yep. So Red Mando 2 here. Super happy to be here. You know, we're big fans of the Space Slugs podcast. We've listened from the beginning. I was a patron, and then when you guys paused, I was like, well, I'm not giving them money for nothing. But I will become a patron again now that you've started producing content again. But yes, super keen to do this crossover episode, and super keen because, you know, we are the Red Mandos, and maybe the Red Mandos have a reputation for being the bad guys, but I think at heart both of us like to play the good guys. So we like to play, you know, the light side of things. So yeah, super keen to do this discussion.
Also, sorry, we promise to be on our best behavior. I know we swear a lot. We'll try to be good.
Not on Space Slugs.
No, it'll be fine. We can edit it out, or I can just put some funny little music over the top, so it'll be totally fine. So yeah, the theme of this episode is, of course, Premier list building or Premier strike team building. We did, or we will have, a sort of at the same time, a crossover episode with the Red Mandos that you can go, and we did an episode over there on Premier strike team for Darkside. So yeah, I think this is probably maybe in our comfort zone, the light side squad building. So I'm really excited, and we've got a few questions that we want to ask, you know, within that theme as well. So basically, Premier strike teams, you know, what they revolve around, whether that's a primary character or, you know, two separate strike teams or just a mix and match, what roles each of those different squads performs, and, you know, if there's any specific matchups, etc., that we'd like to avoid or trying to engineer. So yeah, that's sort of where we'll start. I feel like I'm introducing sort of the bananas in pajamas B1 and B2. So we'll just start with alphabetical order. Mando 1, what did you bring?
So I guess it's good to start with me because mine is probably the least competitive out of all the Premier lists you'll hear today. I went super thematic, and so my list is called No Anakins. So that means no Vader or no Anakin. My list is all Jedi Masters.
Can we just pause the show and we'll just remove Red Mando 1? Yeah?
Take me out.
Anakins? No, let's cut that out.
I did engineer that on purpose, but because we all know that you are the Anakin master. But I went all Jedi Masters, and Anakin was never a master. So he was on the council.
That's such a burn.
All right, so watch me eat my words now. I started with the strike team of Obi-Wan Kenobi General with all his hunker shenanigans that he brings. I've brought with him Captain Rex, and his supporting unit is the newly released Tekko. And they love a hunker more than anyone, really. That is my first strike team. Obviously, Rex is able to give out of activation movements and hunkers, and Obi-Wan wants people to have hunkers, so that's the reason they're together. And Tekko have a innate ability where they get an extra defense and attack dice when they have a hunker. So, obviously, immensely important there with Obi-Wan. My second strike team is Mace Windu and the rest of his box. So obviously with Pons and the ARFs. My third strike team will be Plo Koon. And, he'll be bringing...
Sorry. Jedi Master Plo Koon.
Jedi Master Plo... That's right. All these are masters. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me.
Highlight it.
Jedi Master Plo Koon. And he'll be bringing Padawan Barriss Offee and the 212s. I know that they're pretty looked down on, but I think with Plo and Barriss bringing force pushes and the 212s bringing a lot of pins, both from their tree and from coordinated fire, a lot of displacement and holding people in place there. I think that's the plan with that squad. My fourth one and my final one is Jedi Master Luminara Unduli, and she will be bringing Padawan Ahsoka, just for lightsabers. The more lightsabers in the squad, the better, is the way I like to look at things. And her supporting troop will be the clone commandos, because they put out more damage than any other clones. And you want to kill things with Luminara. So
yeah, that synergizes with her ability for sure.
Yeah, so that, and obviously when you get the dash from killing things, the scale works well. I know that scale works well with Obi-Wan and the hunkers, but I just think Tech and Echo replace the clone commandos with Obi-Wan, and I think the next obvious place is there with Luminara. But yeah, they're my four squads that make up my premier list, the No Anakin's Club.
I love it. So yeah, how are you sort of formulating this on the table? Are you going to be doing two separate strike teams, or is this sort of, mix and match?
I think we revolve around Mace Windu. There's a couple of reasons here. So you've got Mace Windu is a really great Shatterpoint target. Obviously, his identity revolves around that. And Luminara doesn't really want to be Shatterpointed. So...
Oh, come on, man. Like, her sprint...
It's amazing. She's so quick. She runs in sand. She's so quick. Yeah, so I think a lot of other primaries or even some secondaries really want to steal that shatter point when they can. But if you bring Luminara along, she likes to sit on a point in a defensive side of her stance card. And so Mace Windu kind of frees up that shatter point as much as possible for him to go wound things, and then you're allowed to sprint other units on. What I've done with each of my squads is if I revolve around Mace Windu, I've got 3 out of activation movements. So 3 units with out of activation movements. Counting Shatterpoint, that is 4 of the 7 cards in the order deck will give me out of activation from a tactics ability. I'm not including Luminara in this. So if we go back to the top, we look at Rex in Obi-Wan squad, gives 1. You've got Plo Koon, who gives a unit or one person an out of activation movement in his squad, and then Ahsoka Tano will give an out of activation movement to a Jedi primary, as well as if we revolve around Mace Windu, Mace gives 1 and Pons gives 1. So I am trying to play somewhat. I'm trying to make it as competitive and thematic as possible. So yeah, with Luminara, Mace wants to kill things. You then look at a squad like Obi-Wan and Mace. I'm a big fan of that kind of squad, but I've played most of my Shatterpoint games with. Really, really strong defensively. You've got Steadfast, Protection Bubble from Mace. You've got Kenobi with the hunkers. So even if you do displace characters, and Obi-Wan just puts them back onto the point. And then with Plo, I know having 2 units with Force Push on the same side of the board, it might feel counterintuitive in a way, but so let's say you put them on the right side of the board, they're able to control the right really well with diceless displacement. Both Plo and Barriss, if they give each other the extra dice and attacks, they're becoming a little bit more effective. If you have the ARFs in range to expose, that's fantastic. Or even if you have the 212s in range to pin once they do their force push and put a pin on. And Mace obviously bringing force back allows both Barriss and Plo some force they can. So even if they fluff their attacks, they're still able to get that force push off. And I don't think you need to Shatterpoint Plo or Barriss if they're on the same side of the board. Mace can still be the Shatterpoint target to refresh your force as long as one of them goes. So you're still getting 2 two aspects there. So instead of shatter pointing, Plo to get those 2 force pushes, you can use Barris if you need.
I actually really like that, to be honest. I mean, you've got 3 excellent Shatterpoint targets there. You've got Jedi Master Mace, you've got Jedi Master Plo, and you've got Barris, all of which can impact the board in a variety of ways. So that's really quite cool, especially with all the shoves and things that you can bring with them. And as you've said, you separate the 2. You've got Jedi Master Plo and Barris on one side, and then you can bring that protection and steadfast bubble with Master
That
Mace.
was the thought. Yeah. Mace holds everyone kind of in check on his side, particularly because you really want to win struggle 1, right? You don't want to lose struggle 1 because then you've got a 33% chance of losing the whole game. So holding both sides of Sabotage Showdown, if you can score those 4 points, I think you're in a really strong position if you can push up on either side and hold that really strongly. So that's my thought process going into this. Like I said, it is a bit funny, it is a bit cheeky, but I still think there is an element of competitiveness to it. Yeah, but this is mine. I know it's not the strongest one. I know you guys. I know the strongest one out there. It revolves around other characters like Hunter at the moment. Yeah, I really like Jedi. That's like my thing. So.
No, I love it. I think that's totally fine.
I was just going to say, I think your percentages are off if you lose the first struggle.
It was a 50. You're right.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
No, you're right. I'm not a maths teacher. I don't know.
No, I think I really love that list. Like, I think, it plays into a lot of the strengths that obviously Mace and Kenobi, or Mace and Obi-Wan, that's a really strong pairing. But I think you've got a lot of flexibility to bring in Plo if you need diceless displacement. There's Barris and Plo, that's 2 characters there. And look, Barris is fast, right? Like she is fast. If she needs to get to the other side of the table, she can probably get to the other side of the table.
But so's Plo. I think people underestimate how quick Plo can jump from his combat tree on square 1 and then reposition on his last square if he gets full tree. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, jump on square 1's great.
Yeah, I've definitely had him move from one side of the board to the other in one activation and just completely disrupt the whole board along the way while he does that, right?
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Because one of the things that people maybe not necessarily consider, or maybe they're getting it a little bit wrong, is that when you have got, and he does have that on, it's on his 4th success on his combat tree.
Yeah, the active ability.
So the active ability, it's actually after he's done everything else on the tree.
That's right.
It's after he's jumped. It's after he's repositioned, right? So he could potentially, jump, push somebody off the point that he was on, then, jump towards the other side, push them off, reposition all the way over the other side of the board, and then do the force push somebody else. Right, so he can really affect a lot of the board on his turn.
Like I said, I really like Jedi, and I'm really happy with AMG's kind of releases. And I know that looking into the future, we've got more Jedi coming, which I'm super psyched for. I'm just upset that it's not a shirtless Kit Fisto, but I'll make do. I'll make do.
You should convert him, man. You should convert.
Yeah, just do it. Just green stuff it. You won't need to paint it up.
That's right. Yeah. No, there'll be an STL somewhere, and I'm just going to have a shrine to shirtless Kid Fisto. I think that's super keen to move forward with that. But I'm happy to hear if you guys have any. I know you said you've got questions for us.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, you've said that you're going to be probably revolving the pairings around Jedi Master Mace Windu in this Premier team. Do you think that there are any matchups that Mace Windu specifically would like to avoid at this snapshot of the game's state?
Yeah, I think, look, I don't know if the clones in general like heavy attrition teams. The clones obviously have quite a low health pool for supports. Mace is happy to take on whoever, so he's not really fussed by it. But it's the other units that are in the strike teams. So I mean, he's got steadfast and protection, which is awesome. But getting shot at, he doesn't really like. So I guess the teams with a lot of range prowess is probably going to put him on the back foot. I don't have the brain that other people have, and they're super analytical. I just kind of play what's in front of me, and I play what's best for me rather than trying to counterpick what the other team might be. So yeah, I think though, like something with a lot of heavy range attacks to stop to not engage Mace Windu. I think that's probably a problem.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And so further to that, are there any specific matchups that you'd like to avoid or engineer? So let's say, you face an Iden Versio strike team that's going to be coming out relatively soon with a lot of ranged attacks and a lot of attrition. Who are you going to bring alongside Mace Windu to assist with that, do you reckon?
Yes, so that's obviously an Obi-Wan job. I think giving hunkers is super important. So I think, if you're in a Premier Strike team, you obviously need to look at using all the squads once. And I think you need to look carefully when you want to use, the Plo and the Luminara part of the Force, and when you can go into the Obi-Wan. I think if you're playing into something like Ewoks or droids, you can probably look at bringing a Luminara or Plo, because you're going to have a lot of little chip damage, which Mace can help mitigate. But if for those heavier forces, like you're saying, these Iden Versios, I think you want to bring Kenobi, those hunkers with the heals. We've all seen it. I mean, we all play, the good guys. We all know how strong that ability is. And so, yeah, I think that's where I would lean.
Okay. What about Red Mando 2? You got any questions for Red Mando 1?
No. I'm fairly familiar with where Red Mando 1 goes with his lists.
Did you love the counter there? Red Mando 1 said that he doesn't have the big brain to consider this, so he just sort of plays for himself. And then I ask him a question really quick, and he drops like 5 minutes of in-depth analysis on like what to pair against. Loved it.
I do. Look, Red Mando 1, he will always play himself down. He'll always, say that he's not as good as he is. I think one of the key points of what he did say is there's actually a lot of wisdom in that Shatterpoint, one of the great things about Shatterpoint, unlike some other games, when I say some other games, I mean a lot of other games, right, is that there's actually an element of randomness in terms of who are you going to draw in your order deck. So you need to be able to go, this is my strike team. I'm intimately familiar with my strike team. I know how to play it really well. And I can just adapt to the table state at the time. Where is the table state right now? Who have I drawn? Is it right for me? Like, that's a really important part of Shatterpoint, and one of the reasons why I really enjoy Shatterpoint, because it mixes it up for me and makes it so that I have to adapt, but also my opponent has to adapt. And I contrast it to, I guess, one of AMG's other big games, which is MCP, which is you can just have a plan for MCP, right? Like, you can just go, turn one, I'm doing this, there's nothing you can do to stop me. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't like that, right? Like, I don't like the sucks to be you because I have this amazing turn one. And I totally understand that some people love that they can go, I have this awesome turn one plan and nobody can stop me. I really love Shatterpoint in that there is this aspect of you just need to know your strike team, whatever strike team you're dropping down. So you've got the Premier format, you've got 4 squads to pick from. Whatever strike team you put down, you've done the reps, you've got the familiarity, you understand how they work inside and out so that you can adapt to the table state, to whatever your opponent's doing. So I think Mando 1, he will talk himself down, but he has a lot to offer.
Not once ever done that.
No, that's good. So that's really cool, Red Mando 1. What I'm assuming you're bringing Sabotage Showdown as the mission pack there?
Yeah. Just because I know that Mace likes to kind of hang out in the middle, but I think if you can lock down the struggle one by locking down the 2 side objectives in Sabotage Showdown, I think that gives you a good chance. I think, with Mace obviously having that steadfast and protection, and Obi-Wan being able to bounce back onto the point, and Plo and Barriss just being able to move people away even if they fluff their dice rolls. I think, Luminara obviously as well with the wounds, you're able to have any squad that you bring is able to bounce back onto a point really effectively. So you focus on both sides of the board there and just try and lock down those side objectives.
Yeah, very cool. And so what you've sort of touched on it already, but what roles are your different squads performing on the table? You've got your squad for Jedi Master Plo Koon displacing. You've got your resilience, I guess, from your squad with Windu and Kenobi. What do you really see Squad 4 doing for you with Luminara Unduli?
So if it's a another Republic mirror match because I know that clones are a bit susceptible to damage. So you're looking to get a lot of out of activation movement. You might look to, Ewoks, anything with low health pools, really, if they're bringing a strike team like that, then you know that you're probably in a good standing to use that Luminara strike list where you can maximize what you're getting out of the out of activation movements.
I like that. And the reliance of damage on the commandos, for example, because they got a pretty good tree.
They got an awesome tree, and I know that you're not super likely to get all the way down, but if you pair them with the ARFs and the ARFs can expose, then they're in a really good standing. Like, their expertise is pretty reliable in getting 1 or 2 crits at least. So, I mean, even just getting 2 damage in a pin from both guys, right? That's going to be 5 damage in a pin. A pin on any unit can be really debilitating. Yeah, particularly when you're going into kind of those weaker units where they don't have, a lot of health. So 5 damage in a 7 damage unit is really impactful.
I just had a question there. So if you were if you were pairing Mace with Luminara, is that a situation, because I know you love to leave Mace in Jedi Master stance, is that a situation where you might flip him to Vapard so that he
I
can...
probably don't really need him. So the reason I like to keep him in Jedi Master stance is, number one, his defensive expertise is off chops in Jedi Master. It's much better than Vapard. You are getting force back, which means your clones get to do what they want to do on their turns, even if they are wounded. And I think it's really important for Obi-Wan to have clones moving where they need instead of wasting an action for hunkering. So I think that's probably more where that comes from. Jedi Master also gives you 2 shoves with 2 on the tree. That's the other reason I like it. It's that kind of those percentage plays. So instead of going for the Hail Mary and trying to get 7 damage with 3 successes on Vapard, maybe you just look to, maybe you only need 1 push, right? And so it's more doing the percentage plays. And I think for early on, when Mace Windu was released, a lot of the meta revolved around reactive squads like Talzin and Dooku. So I didn't really want to be doing a whole lot of damage to units. I did just want to be shoving them off and wounding them when I felt that it was going to be safe, rather than just wounding them for the sake of it.
And that is, I guess, a key aspect of Mace, is that he's quite flexible in that you can either go for damage or you can go for just some shoves.
Yeah, he's quite versatile. And I mean, he's 6 points, right? And he definitely feels 6 points.
All right, Red Mando 2, what have you brought to the table?
Well, I sort of knew roughly where Mando 1 was going. We didn't discuss it because, if you're familiar with the Red Mando podcast, we're not the polished podcast. We don't do a lot of planning up front. But I kind of knew where he was going. And I think he did mention he only wanted Jedi Masters. And I knew Anakin never became a Jedi Master. And so I've probably gone the route that I knew he wouldn't touch, because he is 100%, he will only... Well, if you twist his arm, eventually he will play something else, but otherwise he wants to play extremely thematic. So my Premiere list, I've gone with a Vader focus, which potentially controversial for a light side focus. Now, what I will say is this Premiere list, I think you can swap out Vader for Mace Windu. Right, so if you are like Mando 1 and you're like, I refuse to touch Vader in a Galactic Republic list, that's fine. You can drop Mace Windu in. Maybe you might make 1 or 2 other changes, but probably not really, and it will still work pretty well. But I have gone with, I guess, a Vader focus. So from that perspective, my squad 1 is Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter. Thank you for the Galactic Republic keyword. Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter.
So stupid. Shouldn't have it.
He shouldn't, I agree, but he does. And it's an aspect that I guess we have to consider. Also, I was just trying to put out there that you should consider it. Now, you may decide I don't want to take it, but even if you're considering... how would I play against a light side focused or a Republic focused Premiere list, you will quite likely come up against somebody who has Darth Vader Jedi Hunter in there, because he does have that Galactic Republic keyword. So squad 1, Darth Vader Jedi Hunter. The secondary is Captain Rex because he is just an amazing secondary. He's just, sometimes you will Shatterpoint Rex because he's just that good.
Oh, he's the goodest boy. He's so good.
He's just such an amazing character. So you want to take Rex, I think, most of the time.
Yeah.
And with Vader, because he's 7 and not 6 like Mace, you can take Rex quite easily. And then ARF Troopers, because who doesn't want coordinated fire expose? And I think they are by far probably, well, no, Echo and Tech probably give them a run for their money, but otherwise ARF Troopers are really good. My squad 2, so this premiere is a Vader focus. So it's primarily focused around playing squads with that Vader squad, but it does have some flexibility to mix and match because squad 2 is General Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everybody loves Obi-Wan. If you play Galactic Republic at all, you quickly come to love General Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I've taken him. I've also taken Wrecker and Omega here because Bad Batch just so damn good.
So strong.
Yeah, so strong. And Wrecker and Omega, they're kind of like a mini Mace, right?
Oh, definitely.
In that, they give all clone troopers protection, and they give all Bad Batch, they give steadfast, and Bad Batch are also troopers, so clone troopers, sorry, so they get protection and steadfast. So they're kind of like a mini Mace. So if you are taking Mace, you may drop Wrecker and Omega out, and then you may put Rex into the Obi-Wan squad. That's something that you could consider. But otherwise, Wrecker and Omega with this Vader focus, they're really, really fun, really, really good.
I like Wrecker and Omega with Obi-Wan because they get the dash on their turn, so they get a little bit of a move. And then that frees up a second action for them to be a hunker, so that you can keep a hunker on them under Obi-Wan.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that dash, the bulldoze tactic is so good.
Right?
So very strong.
Because you don't have to be engaged. It can be at a different level.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But even if they are engaged, it's fine. Like you can move somebody off the point and they're like, I've got steadfast. It doesn't matter. It's not on the combat tree. It's just just a shove. Off you go. See you later. And, obviously if you're an amazing player and you have all the movement, you can play around it, right? You just go, I'm going to drop myself on the point. Your one shove's not going to get me off. That's fine, whatever. But Wrecker and Omega are really good. And as Mando 1 said, Echo and Techo, they love a General Obi-Wan Kenobi hunker because they just get all the dice in the world then. So they're the support for Squad 2. Now, when I put Squad 2 with Squad 1, it's kind of... I've played this a lot. Obviously not with Wrecker and Omega. I've usually put somebody else like Padawan Ahsoka in there, and I've got maybe Clone Commandos or something as the supports. And a lot of the time I actually don't use Vader all that much. Like I'll just use Obi-Wan and I'll Shatterpoint Obi-Wan because the jump from his hello there is a bit more flexible than Vader's, the advance that he gets. And who doesn't want to roll 13 dice with General Obi-Wan Kenobi with hello there and taking 2 damage from Vader? The other thing to consider with Vader is obviously when you take Vader, I think it's mostly for his identity ability. Wrecker and Omega on the tuning out distraction side, they can heal the 2 damage. They do give up a very tasty 1 damage and a very nice pin or strain, but they can heal that damage back, which is always good. On Obi-Wan, most of the time, you never take him out of Ataru. So he, on the Soresu side, he can heal a bunch, but I think I've done it once in all the times that I've played Obi-Wan with Vader 1. Most of the time, you're just like, I want the 9 damage, the 3 pushes, the expose, the disarm, and the pin, because that's just, it's disgusting, right? Like it just, 3 pushes and all of those conditions, it's so debilitating. Even if you don't wound the model, it's just such a tough thing to come back from. Okay, so Squad 3 then is very similar to Mando 1 again. So Jedi Master Plo Koon for the Force push, Barriss Offee for the Force push. but I have gone with a maybe slightly weird choice for the supports here, in that I've gone with the Naboo Royal Handmaidens
Ooh, interesting.
in place of any of the clone options. So the clone options were probably 212. The issue with 212 is, yes, I love their pin, I love their steadfast, I love defensive maneuver. Everything else about them, I kind of am not a massive fan. It's just their expertise is such a pain. I just don't enjoy their expertise tree on the shooting side. Obviously, I don't enjoy their expertise tree. Whereas when I look at the Naboo handmaidens, their expertise on the shooting is lovely, because it's 1 for 1, 2 for 2, and 4 for 3. That's fine. And even in melee, they don't do too bad either, right? Like, it's 1 for 1 and a damage, and 2 for a crit and a damage. That's okay, right? So I'm okay there. And the other thing that they've got, which is surprising, I think, for a lot of people, on one success, they have a heal and a damage, which is great,
The
because
jump is really good too.
you can spread out the heals. And the other one is the jump, right? Because the jump just lets them get places that people aren't expecting them to get. So this is I kind of see my diceless displacement, but also a little bit my mobility squad, in that, Plo loves to take the 2 damage from Vader,
yeah, big
because like, he loves that, because he's going to get his force pulls off most of the time. Barriss struggles a little bit. I think there is a little bit of play with Barriss, in that she, one of the things that I love about Barriss is that she has that AoE heal when she does a recover.
Yeah.
And she does have force speed. So, and she's got to jump on a tree. She's got to reposition on her tree. So if she starts engaged with somebody and she can wail on that person, right? Like, she can just go, I'm just going to wail on you. I'll take my 2 damage, goes down to 6 health. That's really tough for Barriss, because normally she will die from that. But then she's got to reposition. She's got potentially 3 shoves and then a force push, or 1 shove and then a jump. So she can get into a good position where she wails on somebody, and then she goes over and goes, here you go, everybody have a heal, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Vader can't do, right? He can do this whole take damage to get extra dice, but he has no way of healing. So Barriss is a way, potentially, that she can get into a position where she can maximize that AoE heal kind of thing. So I do like her for that.
Another point that I forgot to bring up, why I paired the Barriss with Plo Koon, and you'd get more out of it than I would, particularly revolving around Vader, is Plo gives her his defensive expertise, which is really important, because she doesn't have a super great defense, and so, in particular, when she is taking that 2 damage, she is a bit of a glass cannon, but using Plo's expertise just makes her a little bit more survivable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have actually, most of the time people will use Plo and they'll just use I'll get a free dash when you attack a Padawan or a trooper, and I'm not going to use the expertise. I have used that thing where he, takes the expose, and it has actually won me a game at Shirecon. It won me the game because it kept the ARF troopers alive. Because he gets that 2 successes on one expertise, whereas most of your supports will just get 1 on 1 expertise. So that is a good point. Yeah, so I really like the handmaidens. They do have slightly more health than most of the clones.
We got the 8.
They've got 8, so it can make a difference. They are okay, like, they're good at shooting and they're okay at melee. So they play into what Vader wants to do. They do have the heal, so they can't heal it all up, but they do have 1 heal, so it can be quite good. My 4th squad is Hunter, because
he's really good.
Bad Batch are great. So I've got Hunter there. I've got Crosshair as a secondary, and then I have the Clone Commandos, and this is another one where you kind of toss up. Do you want 212 or Clone Commandos? I've played a bunch with 212, and because of Hunter and his identity ability, I have actually got 212 to their 4th point, but their expertise tree is just so bad. It just hurts me because I don't want the damage. I want successes, because successes get me closer to that sweet that 4 damage from their combat tree.
I think you need to maybe lower your expectations. I think the way I look at 2/12 is I'm happy if I can get just the pin from their tree on. That's all I really want from them. If I can pin 2 different units on their activation, and then they can hang out and then pin other people on other people's activations and just spread those pins out, that's all I really expect from them.
Sure. So, but I think why then I go to Clone Commandos is because on 2 successes
They get a pin. Yeah.
they get a pin, right? So I'm like, I'd rather just go Clone Commandos.
The shove, though, strong.
Okay, so yeah, the shove is strong. Why I do also have Clone Commandos here is because, as I was saying, primarily it's focused around playing around Vader. So Hunter loves Vader. Crosshair, he's an absolute monster at range, but with Vader, he's a monster in melee, right? Like he's a monster in melee as well. But what you can do with this list is you can play Obi-Wan with Hunter, right?
Yeah.
Because now I've got all of the Bad Batch in place. They've all got a little bit more survivability with the Obi-Wan Hunker stuff, and I've got more options for using Hunter's advance on a Bad Batch.
Yeah.
So I kind of like this because, focus around playing around Vader, but also I can sort of flex into Obi-Wan and Hunter. And the Clone Commandos, they love to play with Obi-Wan. Right?
They do.
Because, they love the dash that can turn into a scale, with scale turn into a climb. So I feel like there's a bit of extra flexibility in that I can combine my squad 2 with my squad 4 and get good value out of it.
Yeah, and I think with Hunter, you don't really need ARFs necessarily. I think a lot of the public relied on ARFs for a long time, but Hunter bringing the more reliability from Republic's attacks. I think you can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you love to have the expose from ARFs, but the other aspect of that is if they get wounded, you need to pay force. Whereas with Hunter, you don't need to pay that force, right?
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I have found with playing with Echo and Tech is I've gotten so used to, okay, where's my coordinated fire going to be, right? And they don't have it. Right?
No.
Yeah, it's a bit liberating. You don't have to think about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, now I don't need to worry about that. That's fine. Okay, cool. So I've kind of, I guess I'm dropping those crutches and sort of expanding my
he's playing the big boy game, right?
I think it just allows a little bit more flexibility. So I enjoy that squad 4 with Obi-Wan. I have played it, as I said, a bunch with 212, and it was okay, but I think Clone Commandos just give a little bit, they just play a little bit better how I like to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, there's undoubted synergy between them and Obi-Wan Kenobi, so that makes a lot of sense. That's actually, I love that strike team, to be honest. That's really tight. I mean, as you've said, you can drop down Darth Vader to Mace if you want to play fully thematic, but centering around Darth Vader, whacking in General Kenobi, you've got a lot of synergy with his ability as well, depending on your matchup. Plo Koon loves it. Barriss loves it as well, as you've said. Even if she doesn't get the heals on a tree, you sort of don't care if she gets wounded at this point because all she's doing is existing to get to her 5th tile on her combat tree. And, like, whatever. The payoff for her is so huge that the return shot to get wounded from somewhere else it's almost trivial. Yeah, that's really tight. And then, as you've said, flexing into Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hunter as another squad or another strike team option is, real tight. I like that a lot.
I think some of the things, like, I think we've discussed it on Red Mandos before with Barriss. She can do 4 shoves on her tree.
Yeah,
right?
4 shoves and then a force push.
And then a force push. And it's just like, oh my God, man. Like you went on to the point and you just shoved the person off and then you force push somebody off and you just own that point. Yes, you may die because you've only got 6 health left, but you just like dominated that point.
Mm.
So yeah, she's a very good character.
Yeah, definitely. So, what about matchups that you'd like to avoid, do you think? What do you sort of avoid or engineer? What are you trying to get in here?
I feel I'm not, there's nothing that I'm really like, oh my God, I hate this. One of the things that I find about this strike, this list from a premiere perspective is it's very flexible, right?
Mhm.
In that I'll go Vader and Obi-Wan. So now I've got a mix of attrition and sort of defensive. I'll go Vader and Plo. Now I've got attrition and diceless displacement. I've got Vader and Hunter. I'm going doubling down on attrition, or I can go Obi-Wan with Hunter, and I've got again I've got kind of like this defensive attrition mix. So I feel like this premiere list actually asks a lot of questions for the opponent in that they look at this list and they're like, I can't immediately see which way you're going to go unless, obviously there's a combination that I have to play because I haven't played it before. So I think one of the difficulties that I would find with this list is coming up against a similarly flexible list in that I'm like, I have no clue which way you're going to go on your decision. So then I'm not really sure which way I'm going to go. And then I get into a situation where I'm not 100% sure what I'm most comfortable playing out of these because I think all of the options work pretty well. So I don't know what I do. Maybe I roll a dice or something.
I think you got to play with your heart and just play what you know most and what you like best, rather than trying to psych out your opponent and psyching yourself out. Right? You don't want that analysis paralysis. So just what do I like best? What do I think is gonna be the thing that I can pilot better? And then you just pick that. I think.
Oh, you could go for the flexible option as well. Like, you could choose Vader and Hunter because then everyone's got a melee and a ranged attack, and you've got some,
fair call.
You could really play a bit of eyes up footy there for sure.
Yeah, I do like that Hunter with Vader because one of the only weaknesses of like Crosshair and Hunter a little bit. I mean, Hunter's fine in melee; he's fine, but Crosshair in particular, he's not amazing immediately. But with Vader, you're just like, yes, baby. So, like, that Vader and Hunter list is super fun. But yeah, I don't think there's any matchups that I don't want to play. It's more a case of have I picked correctly against the matchup that somebody else might bring.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's a real tight strike team. I'd be totally comfortable bringing that to an event for sure.
And look, there are things that you could change. Like if you're like, I don't want to buy the Padme box just for the handmaidens. Okay, that's fine. Drop 2/12 in there. They're going to do okay. I just feel handmaidens just have a little bit of extra flexibility, but like, you don't have to bring them.
I would probably bring the 104th Wolfpack Troopers.
Yeah, I just...
It's caveated though. We'll get to it when we do my one.
I think with them is like they're tough, but everything else about them is garbage. I know
agree.
Their combat tree is okay. Like, if you can get 5 successes, their combat tree is great. But you're unlikely to get 5 successes with the dice that they roll.
Yep.
They don't have. If you're comparing them to most other clones, they don't have any steadfast. They can't get a hunker. Yeah, I just struggle to find a place. Their expertise trees are not amazing. Like they're okay, but like they're not amazing. I struggle to find a place to put them. I do like that they have 8 health. That's great. But handmaidens also have 8 health.
Yeah, the uncomfortable part for them is I think they want to be underneath Hunter. Otherwise, I think, like, if you're putting them in Jedi Master Plo Koon's strike team and then you're bringing it with Darth Vader, then you get into this weird position where you're just like, well, they're not really doing anything except add a strain and I don't really need that. Whereas if you bring them with Hunter, then at least they're getting the durability, which is good. And then they're also getting the extra dice, which is, the extra success. No, very cool. Red Mando 1, any questions about that strike team?
Is so you're revolving around Vader, right? Is that because you've got the most amazing white Vader that there is in the Shatterpoint community? Is that what it
Look,
is?
I mean, look. So I did paint a Vader redeemed because look, and I don't know, I don't know if he's canon or whatever, but there were a bunch of comics that were sort of like what if comics from Star Wars, and one of them was what if Luke and Leia both went to the Death Star in Return of the Jedi and managed to turn Vader to their side without the Emperor like killing him with Force lightning. And afterwards, he's like, "I'm wearing white armor," so that's what I use to paint paint one of my Vaders. I do have two Vaders. I have a dark side one and a light side one. Yeah, look. As I said, if you don't like Vader, just drop Mace in there. He'll be fine. Like Mace with Obi-Wan, that's doubling down on the defensive as we discussed previously. Mace with Plo Koon, usually you'll have the Force to use Plo's Force push because you're not generally banking on getting 4 successes. And then Mace with Hunter, that's I'm focusing more on attrition list. So it works. If you don't want Vader and you want Mace, it still works.
Pretty cool, man. Like that's I look. If I wasn't doing like silly Jedi's only, I think my list would be similar to yours, like extremely similar. I think I just would have moved Plo and brought in Luminara, and that's the one change I would have made.
That's fair. I think Plo, like I played the Plo. I didn't have Handmaidens with Plo. I actually had Clone Commandos with Plo. And I think I didn't have Barriss either. I think I had Padawan Ahsoka. And that's another option as well, because Padawan Ahsoka is damn good. She just doesn't have the diceless displacement that Barriss has. But Plo with Vader, I Shatterpointed Plo every
I think
time.
you always Shatterpoint Plo with Vader.
Yeah, like he's just
that's
such a
right.
good activation.
I've played Plo a bunch of times under different people, and particularly under Vader, and I think I've only ever gotten Force bots on his tree like once or twice. And that probably shouldn't be happening, particularly with halves around. And he's got such a good expertise tree. I just feel let down. Like I know it's personal, and I know statistically he's great, but I just feel a little bit let down by Plo. I feel like he doesn't like me back, and so I think Luminara would fit in there for me. But I mean, Plo's such a good option. He's such a great character. I've seen him do so much good. He's just let me down a little sometimes.
Yeah, I just like
it's personal. It's personal.
No, I get it. And that Gemso tree is like it's such a like when you're on the
It's off
other
chops.
side of when you're
Yeah,
on
it's
the
off
other
chops.
side of it, you're just like, oh my god, what? Like he does 6 damage on 3, and then he does 8 on the full tree, or he does 7 and gets the reposition, and you're just like, oh man, it just really hurts when you play against Plo, but it hurts when your opponent full trees every time with Plo.
Yeah, when my Plo's got a training lightsaber, he's like going up
I'm the
against
same.
Padawans.
I'm the same. Without Vader, I'm like, if I don't think I get to 4, I get 3, and then you're just like, it's not
Yeah.
what I needed.
No, I really like it. Really like it. I'd encourage everyone to whack that on the table and have a good time with it for sure.
So, Tom, what have you brought?
Yeah, look, I mean, we all knew what was going to happen, right? To an extent.
Yeah,
You're gonna bring
so-
Anakin.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so again, context. Usually what I do is I run Anakin with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Love that pairing. And usually what happens there is I have Anakin, Rex, and the ARF troopers, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padawan Ahsoka, and one of the 4-point clones. The reason that I do that is because Rex likes to bounce off the ARF clone trooper activation with the ranged attack, which is nice because they usually sit a little bit farther back. And then Ahsoka Tano usually likes to bounce off whatever the 4-point combat action is, because then she can jump in and they're usually a little bit closer. But because it's Premiere, unfortunately, we have to make sacrifices. So this is basically what I've ended up with. So Squad 1, General Anakin Skywalker. Gotta love him. He's the most damage-dealing primary in the game, and he's absolutely fire.
Can I just confirm he's not a Jedi Master though, right?
Yeah,
No,
that's right. No.
he's not. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When you swing and you hit for the fences, doesn't matter. It's all good. So we've brought Padawan Ahsoka Tano along with him just because her tactical ability will be basically predominantly targeted at Anakin just to move him around to make sure that he doesn't need to be out of the fight for too long. And then we brought ARF Troopers as the 3-point cost. So that's a super solid squad. I would prefer Rex in there, but we'll get to the reasons why in a second. Anakin suffers from mobility, and he doesn't want to see General Obi-Wan Kenobi on the other side. But apart from that, just hit into the primary characters or hit into really durable secondary or supporting characters and just wound things. Like that's what he exists to do. Squad 2 is General Obi-Wan Kenobi, who synergizes really nicely with General Anakin Skywalker. We've got Rex in there as well to keep those hunker tokens around. He's another option to move Anakin up the field. And then we've brought Echo and Tech, which I think are the new preferred Obi-Wan support character. They have great synergy with Rex. They have great synergy with Obi-Wan Kenobi. They have shoves on their tree, which the Commandos did not, which is why they're so cool. And forward planning is massive, especially when you're relying on a character like Anakin to do stuff as well. So really, really cool there. And yeah, just a solid unit. So that's probably, that's one strike team. I think you can mix and match quite easily here, but that is definitely a strike team option. The next one is Clone Sergeant Hunter. So I think he's a really good attrition piece, and he's got some really nice pairings with General Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. You bring him with Wrecker and Omega to provide that little steadfast and protection bubble for the Bad Batch, and then you bring him for the protection on the clones as well, which is nice. And then that's why I brought the 104th Wolfpack Troopers along there. So they benefit from protection to make them really durable. And then the combat tree handing out the strains or the disarms on step 1 can be really nice in trying to shut down other people's activations, especially when they're getting the extra success in there from Hunter. So not the best supporting unit in the world. There's a case to be made that you make them the bounty hunters or something, but then you're losing a little bit of that synergy with Obi and with Wrecker and Omega, yada yada. And coordinated fire strain is actually really strong as well.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the better coordinated fires. Like strain on any single character unit, super tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also turns Anakin's 3 successes on Gem So into 8 damage, which is nothing to sneeze at. And that's what he averages out anyway. So, yeah, pretty strong there. Pretty strong. And then the 4th squad, I wasn't 100% sure what to do here. I brought Jedi Master Plo Koon just because he's a super solid piece. He can move all the supporting units. He can move Padawan Ahsoka if you do decide to pair him with Anakin. It's definitely not as good as pairing him with Vader. So, Red Mando 1, you've definitely swayed me maybe towards bringing Luminara here instead. Yeah, just because, he's flexible. There's a lot of wounding here with Hunter and with Anakin and even with Obi. They do a lot of damage. So that probably could be Luminara instead. I brought Crosshair in the secondary spot here, but I think that could also be Wolf as well, especially when paired with Hunter. The only problem with Wolf is that he can't really move Anakin if you do want to pair him there, right? He only moves clones, so he's good. Yeah. He's okay, but Crosshair is just such a weapon.
Crosshair's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had this discussion around Wolf, I think on the podcast and possibly off the podcast as well. I think that the issue that I have with Wolf is Flankum is good in Struggle 1 and kind of potentially garbage in Struggle 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Crosshair's always the better option, right?
I mean, so much damage, right? So much damage, some really cool little abilities there. Stripping Hunkers is always nice, especially if you're up against other Obi-Wan Kenobi players. It can be really clutch. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Crosshair just brings so much to the table that in a Premiere roster, I don't think Wolf makes the cut. I think Crosshair he's so good.
Yeah.
Crosshairs would be my go-to with Luminara pretty much any day of the week. It's just that I was going with like a lightsaber theme, but he's so consistent in wounding pretty much anything with, let's say, 8 or lower health, right? he's got a pretty consistent record, in doing that. Particularly, and he can do it from turn one. If you draw him first, he can move up onto the side objective and shoot whoever's deployed across from him. You've got a clone across from him. He can deal 7 damage quite effectively. He pings 1 straight away, and dealing 6 for him is not a trauma. So, really effective Crosshair. I really do like him.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 successes and 2 expertise, basically, to one-shot a clone.
But we're doing it with 10 dice, and if you're bringing Hunter as well.
It's trivial. Yeah, it's really trivial. And then, in that last slot, I've just got the 2 on 12th clone troopers because they're decent with Hunter as well. There's a lot of, extra efficiency that you gain out of bringing Hunter. So the predominant matchup would be, I think, I'd pair General Anakin Skywalker and General Obi-Wan Kenobi squads together, just because I think that at that point they're the most efficient way to run Anakin. The only problem is you don't want to use that strike team against an enemy General Obi-Wan Kenobi player, just because that's a genuine bad matchup for Anakin. Everything else, though, I think is really good. And I see a lot of chat about how Galactic Republic really struggle into characters like Maul and Talzin. But in my experience, I've actually found that General Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin are really good into that matchup, just because General Obi-Wan Kenobi can shut down either of the enemy primary activations so readily with his combat tree on Sorosu, which is really strong. Sorry, Ataru, which is really strong. You don't need to one-shot them or wound them. You just need to leave them really low, which is perfect. And then you've also got Anakin, who can just hug the secondaries and the primaries and just keep them engaged, especially against Mother Talzin. She does not like it. And Mother Talzin also really suffers into Obi and his hunker shenanigans as well, which is beautiful. So, I really like that matchup. And I think if anyone wants to maybe put a little bit more effort into that matchup with Anakin and Obi into Talzin and the Dathomirian adjacent stuff, I'd really encourage it, because I've actually found that it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think, as we said before, Obi-Wan, or General Obi-Wan, man, he's Ataru combat tree. It's just,
Nuts.
There's nothing not to love, right? Like, you pretty much love all
his
of
whole
it.
card. His whole card, there's nothing not to love.
Yeah, so, I think, even Maul doesn't want to be left on 9 health with 3 conditions and 3 sharps. Like, he's just like, that's the worst for Maul.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I think, definitely.
Yeah. And then, so look, if you see an enemy General Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think you probably bring your own Obi, and then you can probably go with Clone Sergeant Hunter, because he has the ability to use striking distance and stuff like that to get that double hit, which is nice, where Anakin can't do that. And then Wrecker and Omega, adding that protection and steadfast to everyone, and straining people is really strong as well. I know strain's not amazing against enemy Obi-Wan Kenobi hunker shenanigans, because they can remove the strain and then do the dash, but there should be enough conditions that you're handing out to try and circumvent that.
But even, you're saying the Wrecker and Omega, right? So they're able to get that bulldoze push that the hunkers can't negate.
Yeah. So that's a really nice little pairing into an enemy Obi-Wan. Rex is fantastic. Echo and Tech are fantastic. Just really solid. And then you can bring Jedi Master Luminara Unduli in. That's a little bit of an awkward 4th squad. I'm not 100% happy with it, but you could, if you're sticking to the light side, I think you can bring that and make it work for sure. Crosshair's good against Obi-Wan's. Crosshair's good against anything, really. Anything that you want to one-shot. Yeah. And pinning people with 2 on 12th. 2 12th clone troopers is strong as well. So that's sort of what I landed on. I'd be very confident, I think, in taking that to an event. We will probably see a huge rise in Obi-Wan Kenobi play now that there's Hunter as well. But that's a little bit of a concern for the old Anakin, but not insurmountable, I don't think.
Yeah, I think you've got enough flexibility in the rest of your squads in the Premier roster so that you can handle that. I think it is interesting because when the Bad Batch first got leaked, most people were saying don't run them with Kenobi, and now everybody's settled on Kenobi with Hunter's amazing.
Yeah. As long as I think you're bringing Rex in there. But that being said, they've all got enough abilities to use whatever whatever movement ability they've got, and then take a hunker as their second action. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, because I've taken them in my Kenobi and Hunter list. There's no Rex there, and it'd be nice to have Rex to give Wrecker and Omega a free hunker or whatever. But if Rex activates before them, it doesn't really do tons for them anyway at the start.
Correct. Yeah, it's more for the defense for sure.
Yeah, and then like Crosshair, Crosshair is just so flexible. Like, because even if you don't kill them, you can just go to Shove Town with Crosshair, right?
He's
Like,
also
you can.
got, he can also do 2 repositions. He's got 1 on his expertise tree, and then he's got 1 from his combat tree. So you don't even have, like, you can sit, like, hypothetically, you don't have enough force or whatever to do your climb. You can focus, shoot, and still move twice.
Yeah, he's very good. I think
he's nuts.
Crosshair he is nuts, to be honest.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing that with me and sort of going on this Premiere construction journey with me for the light and dark side. It's been a pleasure having you, and we can't wait to do more together. Where can the listeners find your podcast or you in general?
Do you want to take it, Red Mando, too? It's
Oh man, okay. Where can we be found? We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts as well.
we're on the YouTubes.
We are also on the YouTubes. Look, watch or listen to us for a little bit, but once you have listened to us and you realize how amazing are these guys, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RedMandoCast. And we have a Discord. You can join the Discord for free. You don't have to pay any money to join the Discord, unlike some other podcasts where it's gatekept behind becoming a patron. You can join in with our crazy discussions for free. Red Mando 1, do you have anything to add?
No, just make sure you drop a like and subscribe and do all that good stuff for the Space Slugs, because it is the most polished and premier Shatterpoint content you can find.
This is what I've always said, is it is the highest quality content with the highest polish, right?
Yeah.
Because there are some podcasts that have a lot of polish, but their content is pretty garbage. But Space Slugs, look, sorry.
No, I've given you a platform. I'm going to wear the consequences.
We love Space Slugs. You definitely should, subscribe, give them a like, rate them 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you're listening to them on.
Subscribe to his Patreon, please. He's a
right,
he's a poor uni student.
I love that this was a plug for the Red Mandos, and this has just become like a backwards plug for the Space Slugs.
Because we really appreciate Space Slugs. We rate you guys. We really enjoy listening. It's like you're the more polished version of us, so that's why we love you guys.
No,
That's
we
right.
love listening to you as well. And the Space Slugs are a Patreon to the Red Mandos, so do go and check out that.
I will become a patron again now
A
that
sympathy patron.
No, but I have had these. You sign up to somebody and they're like, "Oh, we're producing all this great content," and then they just go silent, and you're like, "Well, should I just keep giving them money for nothing, or should
No,
I?"
100%.
Far out. Just tell him how you really feel, Michael.
No, it's good. It's good. It's all good.
Also, I think we're cheaper than you as well. I think ours is like $4 and yours might be $5. So look at that.
Mate, I'm paying $6.50 a month for your Patreon.
Oh,
I don't know if that's true.
we're 4 USD. We're 4 USD.
Yeah,
Inflation.
it's all those taxes and stuff. Damn the government.
Look, I'd become a patron, but I think my wife literally just went into labor. I'm not even joking. I think I have to go.
Okay.
I think that's not even a joke. All right.
Congrats for that. I hope it all goes
Jesus.
smoothly. Thanks so much for
All
joining
right.
us.
Thanks for having us. Seriously,
Thanks
this
for
is
having
super fun, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll do plenty more to come. Alrighty, well, that was a really fun collaboration that we had with the Red Mandos podcast. But now joining us is the better half of the Space Slugs. Of course, it is Cam. Cam, thanks for jumping on.
No, thank you for having me, Tom. Again, thank you for bringing the biggest slug back on the pod.
Well, you are contractually obliged, as you've repeatedly said before. But yeah, you've got a bit of an announcement for us. So tell us sort of what's been going on behind the scenes for yourself.
So there's been a little game that has released in the last couple of months now, 2 months ago, that has sort of taken a lot of people by surprise. That is Star Wars Unlimited. A little bit different to well, there are still cards. That's one thing they share in common, plus also Star Wars. But it is a TCG that both Tom and I have been dipping our toes into, me, most of my body into. And we've decided that we really want to try and incorporate some of the Slugs magic with Star Wars Unlimited. So the plan is that going forward, hopefully in the next week or two, we're going to be able to get out a couple of gameplay videos of everyone's new favorite TCG, Star Wars Unlimited.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does this mean for yourself on this podcast? Are you going to be dedicating your time to the YouTubes?
Yeah, I think that's the plan moving forward. I'm going to be putting a lot of my effort and time into making sure we can get out some good quality videos. Now, what those videos are, great question, Cameron. Great answer coming shortly. The plan is for these to be live games, not necessarily live streamed, but in person, real tabletop. We've got a beautiful little mat. We've got our tokens. We've got decks. It's going to be, surprise, surprise, Tom and I playing, at least at first. We have a few cool ideas planned. I'd love to try and get some games in a store at some point soon. But for now, we just want to start bringing some of the Slug Magic content through to the YouTube and have it all there for everyone's viewing.
No, it's going to be really cool, and of course, we've got the equipment now. I guess you could say we can also do some equipment.
Yeah.
We've got the equipment in hand, hopefully for some live action Shatterpoint recordings as well that we can put on the YouTubes. But what this does mean is we're going to be transitioning away from any of the TTS recordings. That is going to be streaming and battle reports that have been recorded in post. Take that message as what you will. We're going to be completely going to live recordings now. And I think that's really exciting as well, because I think that there is probably a little bit more of a demand for that. But it will mean that, at least from the Shatterpoint perspective, the battle reports and the sort of content outside of the podcast will slow down, just because it's going to take a lot longer for us to edit and produce that. But that is going to be substituted by some very exciting Star Wars Unlimited content that Cameron's going to be maining. So Cameron's not leaving the Space Slugs. In fact, you're probably increasing the presence of your Star Wars footprint here.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so the Slugs has always been a Star Wars gaming club, I guess you could say. Tom, is that fair to say? Gaming club? Space,
absolutely.
Slugs, whatever. So this isn't necessarily a departure from our initial ideology. It's just the further expansion of our love of Star Wars and gaming and marrying those two beautiful things together. And I know there's a lot of people who were playing Shatterpoint, who were playing X-Wing, which was a community we were both very involved in. They've all started at least dipping a toe, or if not like me, their entire body into Star Wars Unlimited. It's a fantastic game. If you haven't seen it yet and I've piqued your interest at least a little bit, you can wait to see our video go out, or you can just Google it, just have a look. There's a lot of people playing some games. And to Tom's point, we really want to make sure that when we're producing anything now, that we're really giving it, the 100% authentic feel. And we both believe that TTS or any sort of digital product can't necessarily deliver that feel at the moment.
Especially for a TCG, I'd say. And for Shatterpoint as well. We take a lot of pride in preparing and painting and setting up our boards as well. And I think maybe some of that magic's been lost when we translate that to the digital medium. So that's definitely something that we want to change up a little bit on the
There's a level of convenience to having that digital format, but we think that for the health of both of the games and also just for the health of the industry as a whole, it's good to be highlighting that real, tangible gaming experience that we both fell in love with and we still participate in all the time. We just want to be able to celebrate that instead of, having the convenience factor of the TTS. And I'm sure that some people will be disappointed by that change. But I would say, wait until you see the quality product that we're going to be able to put out now, with the focus being on IRL games.
Exactly. And we cannot wait. So, Cam, anything else you wanted to add on to that?
No, I'm very excited. Star Wars Unlimited has been taking up a large space in my brain for the last few months.
Potentially all of it, really.
Yeah, almost 100%. I've got about 5% left for family and friends. And that, honestly, that's still maybe too much for them. I might need to allocate more to Star Wars Unlimited. So, look forward to that, guys. And again, also, just with everything else, super excited to hear feedback from everyone on anything that we put out. Would love to hear people's ideas. we're still exploring, we're still experimenting, both Shatterpoint side, the Unlimited side, or any other games that we might want to touch on, or any other topics we might want to touch on. We're still experimenting, right? And we love feedback. We love to give people what they want to see and what they want to hear. Let us know. Let us know what you want to see and what you want to hear.
Exactly. So basically, in summary, what this means is no more TTS Battle Reports of Shatterpoint. We're still going to be doing the once a month podcast for Shatterpoint. Absolutely. And thank you so much for those that have stuck through us over the last month and a half. I know that there's been a bit of a content lull, but that will definitely be restored and going back to normal. And then you can also look forward to some relatively frequent Star Wars Unlimited videos on our YouTube. We're not going to be incorporating that into our podcast. And hopefully the occasional in real life Shatterpoint battle report on our YouTube as well.
Yep. And thank you so much to Tom for driving a lot of the Shatterpoint stuff for the last couple of months and for making sure this podcast has got out on time as well.
Great. Well, thanks again, Cameron. We can't wait to hear more from you, and you'll be obviously appearing on the podcast every now and then just to spruce the Star Wars Unlimited side of things, and we look forward to your YouTube content too.
Love you all.
The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.